Hi, good evening, and welcome to another episode of Talk Local. I'm Adrian Baker, and I'll be your host tonight. We have a great episode lined up for you. This evening, we'll be discussing City Hall's recent decision not to amend its flag policy. The controversy arose 3 months ago when City Hall decided not to fly the gay pride flag during the Sochi Olympics. But first, we're going to discuss the LRT project in Kitchener. We'll be discussing its pros and cons. I'm joined in studio tonight by Mike Bowes, a member of the local transportation advocacy group TriTag, as well as Regional Councillor Sean Strickland. Good evening, gentlemen. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, great. So, in a nutshell, for those not well informed on the project, can either or both of you just sort of speak to exactly what the LRT project is and kind of what the project encompasses?
Sure. Maybe if I can start, and then Mike can jump in.
Sure.
First of all, it's the largest infrastructure project in the history of Region of Waterloo. Mm-hmm. It's design, build, finance, operate, and maintain system where we will have a train, the ION, light rapid transit, running down the central corridor from North Waterloo to South Kitchener. Then from South Kitchener, using buses, it will extend into the Ainslie Street Terminal in Cambridge. And the idea is to help move people from cars onto higher orders of transit. Also related to the project running down the spine, we're also changing our conventional transit. Okay. So we'll have Grand River Transit feeding in to the LRT ION running down the spine. And so it's an important piece of infrastructure for a variety of reasons. One of the reasons that's often missed when we talk about the LRT is that sure, it's going to move people, it's going to move millions of people a year, but the other important aspect of the LRT is that it's an urban planning tool.
Right.
So by building such a major piece of infrastructure down the central corridor, we're going to be able to encourage intensification and development in our downtowns. And we're already beginning to see signs of that already. And so by doing that, that'll help preserve our countryside boundary, which we have around the urban envelope. Right. So we'll be able to withhold going out into the rural areas and all the pressure that's related to developing greenfield space out there. So the idea is with the LRT, we're going to go up rather than out.
Very cool. All right. Mike, anything to elaborate on that?
I just think it's fantastic that we're seeing land use and transportation working together to create the kind of community that we want to work in, or to work, to live, to play in. Another aspect of this is the ION is just one piece of a larger transportation puzzle. Over the next I guess almost 20 years, we're going to be expanding our transit network and building sort of a high frequency grid of I-Express routes that will feed into the ION light rail. And so this isn't just for those along the core, but it will connect everyone to better transit throughout the region.
Right. Yeah, it's a real metamorphosis. Mike's right to point that out. Like our traditional transit system, prior to 2000, conventional transit was run by the City of Kitchener, and the City of Waterloo actually rented transit services from the City of Kitchener. And then Cambridge had its own service as well. And then after 2000, that service was uploaded to the region. And because of that kind of critical mass, we were able to invest in that transit service. And it was typically run on a transit model that was around for probably 50 years, which was a hub and a spoke. Right. So you had a hub, which was your central transit area, and then you had circuitous routes through different neighborhoods. And so that worked for a time, but now that we've seen more growth in our communities, more pressure on our road structure, in combination with building the LRT, as Mike points out, we're going to have high-frequency cross-town routes. So for example, where I live in North Waterloo, to get from west on Columbia Street to the east end of Columbia Street, past King Street and past Weber Street, it would take me maybe 10 minutes in my car. Right. But on a bus, it would probably take me 2 hours because I would have to go this way and that way and get around. So now part of the plan is to have an express route across Columbia Street. We have an express route, I-Express down King now, express along Ira Needles, express route down Ottawa Street. So as you can see from the video on the screen, the LRT is going to be used to help create a fully integrated transportation system.
So a lot of changes coming then. Now, there's been some recent developments with the project as well. with specifically the project's financing. Can
Yep.
you elaborate on what has happened recently?
Sure. Well, that's really good news, and it's kind of complex because we've structured this project much differently than typical construction projects. Usually, what you would do is you would hire a consulting engineer, and then you would bring the project up to a certain level of design, and then put it out for tender and award that project to the low bidder.
Right.
But for a significant project of this size, we borrowed from the expertise of Infrastructure Ontario, and we decided to approach it with a design, build, finance, operate, and maintain approach. And so that means the contractor, the project co, essentially builds the project, and then we pay them back over 30 years for their construction and also for operating the transit system, the LRT. And when we first signed the financing agreement in December, the long-term bond rate, which we used as the metric to finalize the financing component, was around, I can't remember the exact, it was around 4.22%.
Okay.
And so by the time we closed last week, that had dropped to below 4%. So what that meant, over 30 years, we're able to save $11.5 million on the financing costs of the project, and also save $2.5 million on the near-term construction costs. So a total savings of $14 million, which is very significant. On the financing alone, that works into $400,000 a year for regional Waterloo taxpayers.
Right. Now, with that decision in mind, was it the numbers then that sort of brought you to this new way of doing things?
Well, the thing you have to do for a project of this scope and magnitude, as I said earlier, it's the largest infrastructure project in the history of the region of Waterloo. And when you're managing a construction project, what you really need to manage is risk. So typically what would happen if you tendered it in the traditional kind of approach is that when you went into problems, some unknowns with the engineering, some things you discover as you put in site servicing, some problems with rail car procurement, for example. There's all kinds of variables.
Right.
And that risk is really absorbed by the region.
Right.
And so the contractor, if you were the contractor, you would say, okay, look, we agreed to a certain price, but we have all these things come up, and now we need to have a change order, we need more time to build it, and we need more money from you, Region of Waterloo.
Right.
And so that's a big risk when you're talking about a project that you want to transform the Region of Waterloo and spend $800 million on all in. So what we ended up saying and borrowing is from the Infrastructure Ontario model, which minimizes that risk. So we have an agreement with you as a contractor.
Right.
You have to perform, you have to hit milestones, and if you're late, we don't pay you. If you're late, it's on your dime. If there's a problem with engineering, it's on your dime.
Okay.
And so the risk is offset from the region onto the contractor. Now, of course, we have to pay a little bit of a premium for that in terms of financing it over 30 years.
Sure.
But in the long term, it's the most advantageous way to finance a large infrastructure project of this size to protect the region and our taxpayers from risk.
Sounds like a very beneficial way of doing things. So we're going to continue the conversation. First, we're just going to quickly go to break. You can join in on the conversation via Twitter @TalkLocalWR or by email talklocal@rogers.com. If you have an opinion on this issue, we want to hear about it. So stay tuned. We'll be back with more discussion after a brief break.
Same way.
Right?
And the hospital, Cambridge Memorial Hospital expansion is being financed the same way.
Well, it seems like a good way of doing things, especially when you have the milestones to kind of keep them to task, right?
Exactly. Exactly. And the other aspect of it too is that, and one of the reasons why this project co was selected as compared to some of the others, that they also have some skin in the game.
Right.
So they have invested in the financing as well, rather than just a financial consortium investing in it.
Right.
So Acon's got like 5% stake, Hewitt's got 5% stake.
All right. Hi, welcome back to Talk Local. I'm Adrian Baker. Tonight, for those of you just tuning in, we're discussing the LRT project in Kitchener. I'm joined in the studio by Mike Bowes and Regional Councillor Sean Strickland. So when we left off, we were discussing the city's new way of sort of adopting these projects, a way of doing things. And Mike, did you have anything that you wanted to say to sort of elaborate on that topic? Or?
Well, TriTag has, we've expressed there's some positives and negatives to the region's approach, but there were compromises worked out. One of the things that we've seen in the last few years is the success stories coming out of Vancouver, who've used the similar public-private partnership model and this design, build, operate, finance, and maintain. I think I got the acronym right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. DBFOM.
Yeah.
That's
Right.
And so I think we're in good hands,
Right.
and we're looking forward to seeing the project get rolling.
Great. That being said, with the project sort of starting to pick up some speed now, now that the shovels are sort of going to be in the ground shortly, sort of metaphorically speaking, have all the required studies been completed? Like, is it ready to go now that that sort of financing step has been taken care of, or is there more work to be done before we sort of break
I would
ground?
say most of the work's been done. We're scheduled for groundbreaking June 27th, but that's not stopping the consortium, the Project Co, from beginning to do some work already. Some of the servicing work, you may have noticed if you travel down King Street, some of the servicing work has already occurred. You see trucks at various positions along King Street who are working on relocates for utilities and so on. In order for us to do a project of this magnitude, the environmental assessment was the first step. So, and part of that environmental assessment included the route. And we also did the route from north all the way to south into Cambridge. So this is phase 1 of the LRT, and the approval's in place for phase 2 of the LRTs, where we transform from buses to light rail from Fairview into the Ainslie Street Terminal. So all that approval's taken place. The last major, the engineering has begun. More engineering needs to happen, of course, for a project of this magnitude, but everything's pretty well in place for us to begin the project in earnest.
Okay. So with that being said, concerns have been raised by the public over the effect that the construction is going to have, especially along the King Street sort of core area, and that the project itself is going to have a detrimental effect over traffic in the city. Can either of you sort of speak to that?
Well, sure. I mean, any construction project, any road resurfacing that the region or the cities conduct are going to cause some business disruption, and our understanding is that there's a plan in place to work with the businesses. They've already had some workshops, as I understand it, to understand what kind of disruptions they'll be having and how to best weather those. I think a lot of businesses along the line don't yet realize how much of their customer base comes by bike, on foot, or by transit, and so those things will still be running the whole time through. And so it's not like King Street is going to be entirely closed off for the next 3 years. They're going to be doing it in phases, and hopefully those phases will be well planned and well timed, and so the disruptions will be minimal.
And certainly there's going to be some disruption to businesses in the core, and we have to work with the constructor to minimize those impacts. And we have staff at the Region of Waterloo who are already working with the Downtown Business Association in Kitchener and the Uptown Business Association in Waterloo to put into place plans to help mitigate and minimize any kind of disruption. So great signage, wayfaring, doing the project in stages. So certain areas of King Street will still be open. And it's not all on King Street. It also part of the route goes, down Charles and Frederick. And so there's different businesses that will be an impact along the route. The other important thing to recognize is that in planning for this project, we also invested as a region, approximately $35 million in widening Weber Street.
Right.
So if you've ever traveled near Weber and Victoria right now, you've already seen the transformation. We acquired a lot of those homes along there. A lot of those houses, we're widening it, and we're also doing a grade separation.
Right.
So the plan is that even during construction, beyond construction, traffic's going to be impacted, but they're going to have a good alternative in Weber Street.
Yeah, there's a lot of work going on. So, I mean, it really is sort of a thing where you need to look at what the long-term investment of this is. That sure, it may impact businesses now, but down the road, the benefit of the LRT would lead to increased customer traffic, one would assume.
Well, you just need to have a look right now what's happening. Up in Waterloo, and I say this quite often, I've been in this community a long time, and 18 months ago I counted 9 tower cranes in North Waterloo. In Kitchener, you're seeing more tower cranes. Right at the corner of King and Victoria, which is going to be our major transit hub. Right. We have major plans of subdivision, major plans for development coming forward. Not subdivision, condos and going high. We want to kind of limit the amount of subdivision. There's a whole idea behind this plan. But we have developing groups like ZVest. We got Momentum. We got the Perimeter Group. There's a lot of activity that's happening in our cores, and so the message to businesses in our cores is that yes, there will be some short-term disruption, but long-term, you're going to have a much larger customer base right at your doorstep. And so we're really talking about the urbanization and intensification of our core and really changing our city's landscape. Yeah.
So, I mean, it sounds like there's a lot of things going on, a lot of benefit to be had by this.